Join me as I dive into the world of AI and see if I can create a perfect avatar clone of myself. The idea of creating a perfect avatar clone of ourselves has been a topic of fascination for decades. With the rapid advancement of AI technology, it's becoming increasingly possible to create digital replicas of ourselves that are almost indistinguishable from the real thing. But what does it take to create a perfect avatar clone? And what are the implications of this technology on our society and our personal identities? That's what we're going to explore in this video. So, what you've just seen was actually my AI clone. And we're going to talk about what it means to be able to create an AI clone. And is this an AI mistake? Or is it the AI future that we're destined for? This is technology that's available today. And I think it is quite astounding how far we have already come with the ability to create clones to replicate reality, especially in video form. What you just saw was a generation by a company called HeyGen, and they have created this avatar technology. It's been continuously improving, and it's actually improved to the degree now that you can set up an account and they'll create the avatar that you just saw for very low cost. And what we're already seeing is that there are folks that are getting real use and utility out of the capabilities on this platform. It really is astounding to me how far we've come in such a short time. The ability of our generative AI to take advantage of all of the data that is out there, I think, is probably the most fascinating topic of late. We've been talking about the likes of ChatGPT and Midjourney, Dolly, and all of the others for generating content. And video, like you're watching right now, is just another example. We create things to share with other people, and there's a part of me that wonders if it's not people that are doing the creation, is it still worthwhile? Is it the right thing to do to replace actual humans with AI? I think we're going to be increasingly talking about this dimension of the problem. There's definitely real value to be created with the power of artificial intelligence, particularly generation of content. But where do we draw the line? I think we're going to be discussing this at length over the next several years. But let's talk about some examples where we've seen the use of this technology and where it might actually be a good thing. And that's really what's inspired this discussion for me this week. We've got this AI grandma that has been created by O2 in collaboration with a scam baiter, and it is entirely designed to fake out the scammers. Basically, the grandma is there, and her purpose is to keep the scammers on the phone as long as possible. Let's take a look at the story and see what they have to say about this AI grandma.
If you want to know your savings are gone, what I can help you.
7 in 10 Brits have been targeted by scammers. And it's not just our grandparents. I was one of them. But this film isn't about getting scammed. This is about getting even. Meet my friend, Daisy.
Hello, scammers. I'm your worst nightmare. I'm an AI created by O2 to waste phone scammers' time. So, W's then a dot.
3 times W and then dot.
I think your profession is bothering people, right?
I'm just trying to have a little chat.
It's nearly been an hour. For the love of...
Gosh, how time flies. It's showing me a picture of my cat, Fluffy.
It's showing you a picture of your cat, Fluffy.
Stop calling me dear, you stupid...
Got it, dear. Because while they're busy talking to me, they can't be scamming you. And let's face it, dear, I've got all the time in the world.
So whilst you're out enjoying life, Daisy and O2 are here fighting scammers, taking calls and wasting hundreds and hundreds of hours of scammers' time. If you want to help Daisy and O2 ruin a scammer's day, you can report scam numbers to 7726. Because you can't do it all on your own, can you, Daisy?
Who says I am, love? Speak soon, scammers.
I really love this example. It's a very useful application of this concept of an AI avatar. Now, to be clear, what you saw in the video included a visual representation of Granny, but you can rest assured that's not going to be a part of what they're using with the scammers. That was part of the campaign to help understand the use and application of the technology. But I think having this conversation with a person is one of the first areas that we're going to see a lot of pretty extreme replication opportunities, both from a value creation standpoint and from a scammer standpoint. Today, I actually got a phone call solicitation. They wanted to know if I wanted to sell my home, which I don't. And I am highly certain that the phone call that I received was entirely a generative AI conversation. The responses were delayed and they were not specific to the statements that I made. It was quite suspicious. And honestly, I'm a little bit offended. If you're going to cold call me with an AI, you're going to waste my time with a call that I'm not interested in. And you don't even have to have the expense of paying a person to do that work. I think that's a problem. There's a lot of ways that this could go very badly and quite wrong. And I think that we need to talk about some of the AI mistakes that are involved with the technology, right? The first is this an ethically good thing to do? You are occupying someone's time interacting with artificial intelligence instead of having a human interaction. And it's, of course, not disclosed. Is it proper? Is it appropriate to have an artificial intelligence interacting with a human and that is not clearly disclosed to the human that's involved in the conversation? If you're trying to prevent scammers, obviously you wouldn't want to disclose that because they would immediately hang up the phone, and the whole purpose and intent is eradicated by disclosing the fact that they are in fact an artificial intelligence. But I think that this is something that we're going to have to solve over time. We'll probably have some policies or some laws that are created that require that information to be disclosed. We've already seen the FCC earlier in the year, or maybe it was late last year, where they actually required it had to be disclosed on a robocall that it was not an actual human that was doing the speaking. So I think we're going to see an evolution from a legislation standpoint. But I think it's going to be a really interesting time before those elements kick in. People are going to play, people are going to learn, they're going to try out these new things. And that's where we hit our first example. Really, this is a great example and one of my favorites because it's got us asking the question. This is probably the second major reason that I decided to talk about AI avatars. This is less avatar and more video generation, but it's the same kind of idea. When we can no longer distinguish reality from artificial intelligence, it's going to lead to some very interesting dilemmas. So let's watch the video that was shared on social media this week. This is actually a commercial for Aston Martin. And the question posed by the creator was, some are not sure if this is AI or an actual car commercial. And I think I'm left with some questions. You tell me, blow this up on this. So I don't know. That's a tough one to call. I think that is AI generated, honestly. There's definitely some things about those images that are quite questionable to me. But if it is, in fact, AI generated, the quality that's represented in that video production is pretty astounding. You can imagine that the people in Hollywood are paying attention to the capabilities that are there. If you're a director, you hire actors and you hire all sorts of people in order to bring that creative vision to life. Imagine a world where that director no longer has to hire thousands and thousands of people. You've sat through a movie to see the incredible length of the credits, right? If you could make a full feature film with only a few people, and it's starting to look like that's very possible, this is going to change a lot of things. Granted, not all films are going to be great. Look, if you've ever taken a look at some of the video that's available on Prime or Netflix, you know that not every film that's made is the most entertaining thing that's come around. So I think we can certainly expect there will be more content that's available, but is it going to be better content? And it's going to wholly rely upon the vision of the person that's carrying that off. But the opportunity that's here is very interesting. And to talk through what it looks like, this isn't just a risk in terms of what's possible in terms of employment, right? Because if you're an actor, you might become unemployed because they're able to generate this high quality with an avatar, completely not need the humans that are involved. That's one element of it, but there's more to it than that, because if you can just generate a human doing something, you could think about all of the implications for fraud that might be involved. Security risk. We've already had incidents where a CEO was replicated in a conference call, and they actually brought in multiple different people to represent a board of directors to persuade someone to move some money across accounts. So it's already possible for someone to leverage AI to generate, whether it's video or audio or a combination of the two, to present a fictional reality that causes someone to take a real action. These are some serious implications that we have to think about. And I fully expect that we're going to see a cautionary tale in the future that is an example of how we need to change things. Solving the identity problem is going to get so much worse. If you followed the election activity, you couldn't avoid the conversation around voter identification because there were different people involved and they had an agenda to carry through. But this question of identification is going to get much worse because we live in a virtual world, right? Being able to prove you are who you are is not going to get any easier. And if you go back to the HeyGen creation that I shared at the very beginning, and I have to give HeyGen some credit because they actually require you to authenticate yourself as you are creating the avatar. As I went into this experience to create the avatar, one of the things that I had to do actually was authenticate myself. I had to prove and read a statement that showed that I was authorizing the creation of that AI avatar. And in fact, the first time I did it, I had a problem because my desktop setup here, I had trouble selecting the camera using their authentication wizard, and it didn't work because the camera was not on me. I was verbalizing the authentication, but they couldn't see me on the camera. And they actually turn on your camera to prove that you have control of the device, and then you submit that, and they have a validation process to confirm that you are the person that is the avatar creation, because you obviously wouldn't want someone to be able to take a random recording of someone off the internet and be able to create an avatar of them without their permission. And so I have to give HeyGen credit because they did some really smart things to at least have some basic checks to ensure that you're not just out there and creating it for any purpose. I don't know what kind of validation they're using on the back end. It is some sort of automated process. It may be processed by a human on the back end as well. It's not clear. They haven't shared how they're doing that validation. But I do think these are the kinds of considerations that have to be taken into account as we're moving forward with the capability. Let's look at some more examples of this AI generated future that we're slipping into. We have today some new features that have been released by TikTok. Here's another great example of what's been happening. And they have their own capability that they're creating. They are building into TikTok this ability to actually create your avatar. Now, it's only available on TikTok. So you're creating videos, you're prompting what is being spoken, you're choosing the AI, and you're exporting the video. Now, this isn't the HeyGen situation, but you can imagine there's a lot of opportunity here, especially in the marketing domain, for driving product, sharing details, or perhaps if you just want to be an influencer and make a quick video, but you don't want to be on the camera. I think there's some future here for TikTok. It seems like a pretty cohesive product. Now, I don't know what that looks like I'm not on TikTok. And it's not a platform that I'm really interested in. I like YouTube better, and I don't even do shorts all that often, but I tend to stick to the long form communication. And speaking of social media, we have another really important element to talk about, and that is when you are looking at all of the organizations that are building their business model around generating these AI avatars. Here's a good example of sort of the average technology that's available. This is a new company, and they are setting up to generate these AI avatars. They are basically making it possible for you to sign up for an account. You choose who you want to represent your avatar and what you want them to say. Now, I will tell you, I don't think that's a very good representation. I think it's lacking in quality, and there's really some opportunity for improvement. But again, this company is getting it out there. They're beginning to identify who their principal market is, what are the use cases, and they're improving the model. What we've seen with HeyGen and generating me was quite impressive. I don't think it's a stretch to see this getting better and better over time. So the sooner you can get to market, the more likely it is that you will get the mind share to make that happen. And from a social media standpoint, there is precedent for this, right? If you are creating videos and content for social media, there are actual AI influencers. Here we have our page from Instagram. This influencer, Lil Miquela, has been around for actually quite a few years. And every bit of this influencer is completely AI generated. Now, what's interesting about this, of course, is that it is just a majority of images that are generated, and we've had image generation capability for quite some time. So this is a few years old, but they haven't stopped posting new content. And if you take a look at what these generations are, you've got active participation from people that are looking at this and giving it their time. So there's absolutely precedent for people enjoying this AI creation and engaging with it. I think it's fascinating that people actually get any benefit or value out of engaging with an AI influencer. And I think we have some use cases where that might actually make sense for you. So one of the AI influencers that I get some of my news from is Rowan, and he's shared a story this last week where he's actually using this capability for content. Now, he's a very busy founder. He's got a number of properties that he's in charge of. He's got a newsletter that he's running. He's made quite a few videos. In fact, I showed some of his content in the past. And basically, what he did was he recognized that creating video was actually a bottleneck for him as an influencer. He likes to focus on his newsletter, and what he was actually able to do was hire a company that creates these videos of his content using his authentic imagery to post to social media. So he's been doing this with a personal Instagram account, and he's got his handle out there. He's disclosed that these are AI generated videos. He's not keeping a secret. He's being very upfront about the whole thing, but he's actually netted some really great results from doing this. So here's a sample of what that video looks like.
This is not CGI. OpenAI-backed Figure just revealed the world's most advanced humanoid robot, Figure 2. This wild demo shows off the humanoid working in a BMW factory, completely autonomous with self-correcting behavior. Here are the new technical features that stand out. 1. Speech-to-speech reasoning. Figure 2 can have full conversations with humans. Onboard mics plus speakers plus custom AI models equals a robot you can actually talk to. 2. Vision language model. This allows the humanoid to understand what it sees and make quick, common-sense decisions based on visual input. This will be necessary for applications in complex real-world environments. 3. 20-hour workday. A custom 2.25 kilowatt-hour battery pack gives Figure 2 a 50% energy boost. Pretty soon, this will get to the point of robots working almost non-stop. 4. AI vision. 6 RGB cameras spread across Figure 2's body give it a 360-degree view of its surroundings. That means it sees everything. 5. Hands. These hands are next level with 16 degrees of freedom and human equivalent strength. 6. Figure 2 has 3 times computational power and AI inference available on board, enabling real-world AI tasks like working at a BMW factory to be performed autonomously. The pace of development from the Figure team has been incredible to witness, and the partnership with OpenAI will only continue to push development faster. If you're not paying attention to humanoid robotics, now's probably the time.
So what's interesting about this video is that what they've actually done is they've taken very short clips of Rowan to include in the video. It's primarily his voice. And of course, that is generated to replicate his voice. So he's able to write out the script and go find the clips for the video, and it does the job. And maybe that's something I should consider doing. I could probably turn up a significant amount more content if I were using that AI generation to sit in for me. What do you think? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I see a few of you have joined online here. It's good to hear from you. Let's go to the comments. I don't see why you shouldn't be able to make an avatar of anyone with or without their permission. Yeah, I think that's an interesting take on this too, right? Because there is value for being able to create that content, and that may be something that they're interested in doing. But you have to disclose it. I think people need to know that's taking place because there are some bad things that can happen from that. If you can establish some basic ways to inform and let people know that's what's actually going on, I think that is a valuable part of the discussion. But I have one more use case that I want to share with you before I close out the discussion and we wrap up talking about all of the AI mistakes in the world. This is another one that came to my attention. This is Soul Machines, and they actually have a service where they are using these AI generated, they're calling them AI assistants, with the intention of training and education or coaching or self care. And you actually have the opportunity to jump into and talk with these AI bots about all sorts of things. And so it gives you the feeling of interacting with another human being when you're actually working with an AI. And of course, there's some real advantages to that, right? Because then you don't have to feel bad about asking questions again and again. And you can take your time and work through learning a new skill. I think there are definitely some opportunities to apply these capabilities in a very positive way. And we've seen some good things and we've seen some not so good things. What do you think? I'm of the position that this is like any other technology. The rule of thumb that I like to use is technology is neither good nor bad. Only the person controlling that technology makes it so. When you sit down in front of that keyboard or pick up the device, you have an intention of what you would like to do and why you'd like to do it. And the reality is, all of the laws and rules that we make in society are really around governing the outcomes from those kinds of intentions. You can intend to do harm and not actually do harm. That's one set of laws. There's actually where you do harm, even though you didn't intend to do harm. That's another class. And then there's the gray areas that are in between where something doesn't go right or someone loses their temper and makes a bad decision. I think we're going to have all of these outcomes. And what's most interesting about this circumstance, of course, is that this technology is available to everyone. It only took a few dollars for me to go out to HeyGen and begin using that. Now, there are, of course, limits to how much I'm willing to spend on such things. But if you get the right intention coupled with a little bit of resources, it could be very interesting what happens. And I also want you to be aware that this kind of technology is out there. And as you're going about your day, as you're answering your phone, as you're receiving video or communications, it might be worthwhile for you to stop and think for a moment. Wait a minute, is there anything about this that isn't quite right? Now, going back to the Hey Gen, I actually shared the video with my wife, and because we're so close and because we're together all the time, she was immediately able to detect that something wasn't right about the voice. But it was quite exciting for me to finish the video and, you know, it's me talking back to me. Hey Daniel, your instant avatar is ready. Try creating videos with it. Also, click the feedback button to share what you think. Hope you enjoy. I don't think the audio is 100% right. It had a 2-minute clip of me talking. And I think if you are listening closely on the video, you can tell, right? It doesn't sound quite right. But you're not gonna know that. If you're not on the channel every week listening to me, if you're not with me on a regular basis, you're probably not gonna be able to detect that difference. And that's where things get to be a little bit dicey. Now, the other thing I'll share with you is that as a YouTube creator, one of the things that I have to do actually is disclose when I am using AI content in the video. So when I finish the publishing process for this live conversation, I will have to share with YouTube that, in fact, I opened the conversation with an AI generated video that was intended to represent me. There are some rules and guidelines that are in place. They actually have some ways that you can leverage that in the creation of content for your channel, especially if it is you. You have the right to choose if that's something you're going to disclose. But I think there's a ton of opportunity here. I could see some real value. And I think there is tremendous potential for good and for bad. And it is going to be disruptive in the short term. And I think that really is the biggest takeaway here for those people that are out there trying this technology and applying it in new ways. There's a huge opportunity to find exactly the right ways to use this. You don't have to be deceptive for it to be an incredibly beneficial technology. But the last AI mistake element here that I want to take into consideration is, what does this do from a psychological perspective, right? What does this make you think of? Does this create a sense of joy, a, a positive view of the future, or does it make you more concerned about what's going to happen next? I think for me, I'm right down the middle. I could absolutely see the potential in both directions. And I certainly do have some concerns over how this technology is going to be used. The thing I get really excited about with this kind of technology is the fact that it's actually possible for me to create a representation of myself and have it speak in a foreign language. That's really exciting to me. I'm going to have to really think about, what does that mean for me as a creator, because now I can create a video in any language. We saw an example of that earlier this year where someone made an address to the world and they were speaking in a different language. That was published in English with the person speaking. That was an incredible way to demonstrate the technology. And I spent a lot of time in other countries. It is difficult for me to speak a foreign language. And man, that is a huge opportunity because it solves a real problem. I think the better we can communicate around the world, the more valuable a technology like this can become. So I want to say thanks for watching the program. I really enjoy having these conversations and sharing what I'm seeing out in the great wide world. There's a lot of AI mistakes, and I want to encourage you to not just look at what I'm sharing here on the channel, but actually find ways to apply this to what you're doing every day. Look, I'm a major researcher, right? I love to research things, but one of the lessons I've learned in my life, you might say an AI mistake, would be to not share enough, not play enough, so that I could realize the real benefit from this technology. So if you've seen something here today on the channel that you are finding really interesting, don't hold back. Take that action. Get out there and make some AI mistakes. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.